the way we have gotten to our bull price target, and our bull price target, the probability on that has increased with the ETF significantly. $1.5 million by 2030. Let's go. There are three major assumptions we're making there. That Bitcoin really becomes half the size of the gold ETFs.
In a recent interview, Cathie Wood, the CEO of ARK Invest, passionately shared her bullish outlook on Bitcoin, particularly with the launch of Bitcoin ETFs. Cathie Wood predicts a bullish price target for Bitcoin, projecting it to reach $1.5 million by 2030. This projection has increased in probability with the anticipated approval of more Bitcoin ETFs. Wood believes that Bitcoin will grow to be half the size of gold investments, totaling around $13 trillion. She also believes that 10% of the global money supply, excluding the big four economies, the US, Europe, the UK, and Japan, will be allocated to Bitcoin. This allocation could come from various entities, including companies' treasuries and individuals seeking to protect their wealth from inflation and currency devaluation. Cathie predicts that 6.5% of all financial assets globally will be allocated to Bitcoin. This includes assets across various categories like real estate, commodities, and gold. We will now show more clips of Cathie Wood's bullish insights on Bitcoin. But before that, please take a little time to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Thanks, and enjoy.
Well, President Bukele, and I would say his brother, I also met Ibrahim, his brother, very, very important duo, I would say. Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, economic reform, education reform, he's going to do it. He's going to be inaugurated for the second time June 1st, so this week. And he's a man on the move. The GDP of El Salvador is only $30 billion. The average income of an earner there is $450 a month, right? From that low of a base, Art Laffer was with me as well, and David Puel, my colleague back then, back there. Where's David? Oh, there he is, way back there. We were in El Salvador, and from that low a base, I truly think, given his focus and desire to pull his country out of what had been years and years of civil war and then gang warfare after that, he's now put all of them in jail. Now he can get down to business. From such a low base, I really believe he will increase GDP tenfold during his 5-year term, based on those four variables. And the El Salvador was it was pegged to the dollar. Their is it peso? I forget what the currency is, but it was pegged to the dollar already. So they had that going for them. But he felt so strongly about Bitcoin transforming El Salvador and really making it an oasis in Latin America. He's putting in, and Art Laffer is going to make sure this happens. He's already put in some great tax incentives. No capital. I mean, anyone interested in doing Bitcoin. So Mark Seal there, right, is living in El Salvador right now. He's moved. He's AI and crypto or Bitcoin. So, but the incentive system he's putting in place is going to create an oasis for Bitcoin and AI. And those are two of the biggest, most profound innovation platforms in history. So he's going to make history. We have centered the firm's research around disruptive innovation, so innovation platforms that meet 3 criteria, and I can get into them if you want, but the 5 are robotics, energy storage, artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, and multi-omic sequencing in the life science space. And each one of those is moving into its own S-curve, moving into prime time in terms of adoption. And I think the reason the world is going to feel chaotic, even to us in some sense, we've been disappointed by some earnings results because, in the AI world, things are happening that we wouldn't have expected. So it's moving very quickly. And I think there is, if you look at consumer sentiment metrics out there, you'll see the consumer is kind of down. The consumer is not feeling very. Now, I think a lot of it is where the price level is in the economy, but a lot of it also is if you look at surveys of people making $100,000 or more, their fear of losing their jobs is moving up dramatically here because of AI. And if unemployment follows with this line, it will end up somewhere in the 6 to 7% range in the next year or so. So that's something that's happening that's unsettling. This is much like the late 1800s, early 1900s. Telephone, electricity, and internal combustion engine going to change the world completely. And society was very uncertain, unstable. There was a lot of angst back then, and I think there is. So innovation, all of the innovation I'm talking about, has huge ramifications for wealth creation and standards of living. Right, productivity gains. We think productivity is going to absolutely boom here, and we think real GDP growth could appreciate from where it's been in the last 125 years. Real GDP growth from 3% at a compound annual rate, with China bringing up the rear recently. We think that will go to 6 to 8% during the next 5 to 10 years. Most people think that's nuts. The other side of it, though, is this is highly deflationary. All of these technologies are deflationary, and that's why Bitcoin fits right into this new world.
Cathie Wood is sharing her optimistic view on the potential economic transformation of El Salvador under President Nayib Bukele, as well as her broader perspective on innovation and its impact on global economies. El Salvador's GDP is currently around $30 billion, with an average monthly income of $450. Despite this low economic base, Wood believes Bukele can significantly increase the country's GDP tenfold during his 5-year term through his reform initiatives. Aside from that, Wood also mentions that her firm ARK Invest centers its research around 5 major innovation platforms: robotics, energy storage, artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, and multi-omic sequencing in life sciences. Potentially increasing from historical averages of 3% to between 6% and 8% in the next 5 to 10 years. That being said, let's listen to more of what Cathie Wood has to say.
The interesting recent statistic there, David gave me this the other day, is that if you look at 13F filings for the first quarter, this is mostly hedge funds we're talking about. For every hedge fund putting funds into a gold ETF or gold, there were 10 putting them into the new Bitcoin ETFs. That's pretty big, right? So that's our first assumption.
Yeah.
The second is back to the emerging markets. If you look at global money supply and you take away the big four, maybe you shouldn't, but let's take away US, Europe, UK, and Japan out of the global money supply. If you assume that the rest of the money supply, that 10% of it is really reallocated to Bitcoin, it's really the money supply, right? And it could be through treasury, it could be through the treasuries of companies. It could be individuals trying to protect themselves from, destruction of wealth and purchasing power. We're assuming only 10% of that residual goes to Bitcoin. So these are conservative assumptions, I would say, right? And then the third is the institutional. These are the major ones. There are others. There's remittances and so forth. But so institutional involvement, we assume that 6.5% of all financial assets are allocated to Bitcoin. So in global asset allocation, this does include real estate and commodities and, gold and everything, but 6%. And the way we got to that number is that's, maximizing the Sharpe ratio, return per unit of risk, is maximized, and really, volatility is not a consideration. In that study, if you really care about it, you'd probably want to allocate 2.5%, but 6.5%. So I think President Bukele is really smart, because emerging markets, what is the death knell for an emerging market? It is when they run out of reserves, capital flight, running out of reserves. And so if these emerging markets put Bitcoin on their balance sheet and it's appreciating as their own currency is falling apart, that is a beautiful hedge. And they're probably going to increase their allocation over time as they appreciate that this is a risk. And look what the trend of Bitcoin has been. Look at what the trend of most fiat currencies has been, right, relative to anything, the dollar or gold. And even the dollar relative to gold has been, a terrible investment over since the Fed came into being. So I think emerging markets are going to start, but people inside of emerging markets need this insurance policy. And, you need, and I used to say this, and then I met KG, KG. I used to say all you need is an internet connection and a smartphone. And you have your insurance policy. You can buy Bitcoin. Now, I guess with a SIM card, you can access Bitcoin. That's marvelous. The more people that I meet who are making this happen, the more my conviction grows. 2019. I had the pleasure of meeting, were you there? I don't know. You look familiar. I had the pleasure of meeting core developers at a confab in Uruguay. And I met very young developers, to most seasoned. And the most seasoned and the young seem to have the same kind of love for monetary theory that I do. And that increased my confidence. It's really the people who are building this ecosystem, the first global, digital, decentralized, rules-based, critical monetary system in history. That's a very big idea. And that was what Art said at the time. This is what I've been waiting for. This is what it is. But it's also a technology, and it is a new asset class. There is, no matter what other crypto asset you talk about it, no other one has those three. Bitcoin, especially because it is the global monetary system. It's very exciting. And in terms of, that's the conviction side of it, but in terms of the inspiration side of it, this is going to transform people's lives. That's what keeps me so passionate about it.
With Cathie Wood's projection of Bitcoin reaching $1.5 million by 2030, how do you see this impacting the global financial system and traditional investments like gold? Share your thoughts in the comment section. If you found today's video informative and would like more insights and updates on cryptocurrency and global finance, please consider liking the video, subscribing to our channel, and enabling post notifications. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll uncover more about the fascinating developments in the crypto space. Until then, keep questioning, exploring, and most importantly, investing wisely. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.